Hi everyone, Jesse here with eTrailer. Today we'll be taking a look at, and I'll show you how to install the Torklift SuperHitch Original on our 2018 Chevrolet Silverado 3500. This is going to be a great option for you, not only if you're looking to tow something like a camper and have a bike rack up in your top receiver, but if you're like our neighbor today, they're planning on using an embed camper with this truck. So they wanted to use Torklift's SuperTruss system. These are also going to be flat towing a vehicle behind that camper. And that SuperTruss system, what it does is extends the hitch out, so it's going to make it a lot easier to hook up and get on the road. Here's a closer look at the SuperHitch installed on our neighbor's truck. As you can see, it's going to look really tough on the back of your truck. And you have these two 2-inch receiver openings here, so that's pretty standard for most accessories. And then it does come included with 2 pins and clips for your 5/8 inch pinholes here. Below, we have some safety cable loops. Very easy to access with either a large clevis like this or an S-style like this. And then over here on the outside, we have a hole here. This is for the chains on your SuperTruss system. So that's already there for you. You don't have to worry about finding a place to mount those. Now for some measurements for our ground clearance, we do have 2 receiver openings, so I'll measure both. From the ground to the top of the inside collar on the bottom receiver here is 18¼ inches. And then to the top of the inside collar on the top receiver opening is about 21¼ inches. Then from the center of our pinhole to the edge of our bumper, we do have an aftermarket bumper on this truck, so yours may be a little different, but we're looking at 3 inches. You want to keep that in mind for any folding accessory that you'll add on to ensure it doesn't make contact with the vehicle. And for the weight capacities with this hitch, we have a gross trailer weight of 17,000 pounds. That's the amount of weight that you can pull behind the vehicle. And then a maximum tongue weight of 1,700 pounds. That's the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. You do have the option to use weight distribution, for example, Torklift's weight distribution that they designed especially for the SuperHitch. That's going to bump those numbers up to a gross trailer weight of 20,000 pounds and a maximum tongue weight of 2,000 pounds. Always be sure to double check your vehicle's owner's manual to ensure that your truck can handle that weight safely. Also, if you have any questions after watching this video, please reach out to us. We'd love to get you pointed in the right direction. As for the installation with this hitch, not only is it quite heavy, but there is quite a few components and a lot of hardware that you will have to torque down. If it's not something that you're looking to do yourself, maybe you don't have the time, the space, or the tools to do so, feel free to check out our dealer locator to find someone local to you that would be happy to help you out. If you are looking to see how this gets installed, then follow along and I'll walk you through the process. To begin our installation, we'll need to remove our old hitch. And with our truck, with our setup, we do have this big hefty aftermarket bumper. I'm also going to have to remove that, but if you have a factory bumper, you shouldn't have to. These bolts, the first bolts that we'll do are the ones that are holding up the bumper, but you should have similar bolts there. They may be different sizes, but we'll get those removed. Here's those bolts. You can see this bracket coming up from our hitch to these bolts where they mount into the frame. These are going to be 19 millimeters. Take the nut off and the washers, and then we'll have to take the other nut off to get those worked out. So we are kind of learning as we're going with this aftermarket bumper here. But it seems like there's one more bolt that's holding the bumper in place, but not our hitch. So I'm assuming that I can work around the bumper and just get our hitch down. But at this point, anything we do on one side of the truck will repeat on the other side. Now I'm going to lower our exhaust down. So there is a rubber hanger up here. Make sure you have something to support the exhaust. You see I'm using a cam strap here. But I'll just use a pry bar to get this hanger popped off. These exhaust hangers are pretty hard to work with, at least on our diesel truck here. And then in front of our axle, we'll have 2 more. We'll just pry them off. And that'll give us enough play with our exhaust to work around it. Now with those hangers off, we can manipulate the exhaust and work around it. So really, Only thing that it was in the way of was these bolts on the bottom. These are a 19mm socket, and you may need to get a 19mm wrench up in the top. Again, this truck already has these camper tie downs, so your hardware may be a different size. Now with our tie downs out of our way, we can see the three 21mm nuts holding our hitch up on both sides. So one in the back, one in the middle, one in the front. We'll get those removed. You will need to gain access to the bolt on top because it'll start spinning on you. So for this back one, I just have this little stubby ratchet that I'm able to fit up into place and get it locked onto our bolt. Get that slid out. One thing to mention is you will definitely want either some kind of stand to hold up one side or another set of hands to help you lift this. With the hitch out of our way, we have one more bolt to remove on both sides. It's the bolt that mounts the bed to the frame on the very rear. We'll need an 18mm socket and an extension to get up there. We're ready to install our side brackets, so just make sure you got the right one on the right side. They're going to be mounted up like this, and we want to be able to access this flange here from the outside. So the first bolt that we'll install, kind of weird on ours, there should be a nut welded onto this hole here, but I don't know if ours is broken off in the past or something like that, but I'm going to just use this factory nut and hold it up there. And then you would want to use one of the bolts in your kit and a flat washer, but since I don't have that factory nut, I'm going to use the factory or the bolt that I took out of there just so I know it will thread in correctly. So we'll lift this up into position, line it up with that nut, and then we'll get that threaded on. And this is going to hold it into position while we install the rest of our hardware. So if you do have that weld nut, this will be the hardware that you're using. You're going to grab one of the 1/2-inch bolts without a shoulder on it, then have a split washer and a flat washer, and then thread it into that weld nut. Next set of hardware we will install will be installed into where that bolt that we removed is, where it attached the bed to the frame of the truck. So we'll need quite a bit of hardware to get that space filled. So what we'll do is slide a bolt with a split washer and this spacer block here up into place. And then we'll have our frame there. And once that frame's in between, we'll have a large flat washer that's 2 inches by 2 inches, 2 small flat washers, then this pipe spacer, and then another one of those 2-inch by 2-inch flat washers. I do like to leave this bolt pretty loose just so we can kind of work around. It's kind of tricky to get all of our hardware fit into place. So now we'll slide up into the frame, get our 2-inch by 2-inch flat washer on there. Then our 2 smaller washers. Get that pipe spacer tucked in. It does help to kind of tuck the top past the edge of the bed there, and then get it slid on top. Then finally, our last 2-inch by 2-inch spacer block. And then we'll have to line all that up with that, with those threads in the bed. Now with our 2 forwardmost holes, we'll take a 1/2-inch shoulder bolt with one of those 1-inch by 2-inch spacers. Have to go around the inside. There's a access hole, drop it down, and then we will add on a spacer block, a split washer, and a nut. It does help to kind of push laterally on the split washer to keep the bolt from spinning so you can get it threaded on. And then we'll do the same thing with this bolt on the other side of our shackles here. Now you want an extra set of hands to lift our hitch into place. I have my friend Joe here who's going to help me. We're just going to lift one end, get it lined up with our bracket here. And then we will get one bolt started on both sides, and that'll kind of hold it up into place for us. We'll slip on a split washer before the nut. In the heat of the moment, both me and Joe actually put our hardware in backwards. It's supposed to go from the inside out, which is not that big of a deal. We really just got the hardware in place so it would hold it up into place. So I'll slip another one on and I can flip this one around. Now we need to get our side support brackets in place. We will need to fish some hardware in first. So this is the hole that will end up bringing our bolt down through. You'll want a spacer block and a star washer on that bolt. And this is the skinnier shoulder bolts in our kit. So I'll take the fish wire. Once you have those slid on, you'll just thread it onto the coiled end. I'll feed it through our access hole in the back here. And it's going to come out that hole there. And then just pull it down. And then you only have one fish wire in the kit, so make sure you unthread it and don't just go ripping it off. For our side support bracket, you'll want to make sure that this triangle piece is going towards the back. Just slip it over that bolt. And we'll take a flat washer, try to hold that in place. Split washer. And then the nut. Now from the inside going out, we'll take a 1/2 inch bolt and a flat washer. Slide it in there. And another flat washer, split washer, and our nut. And same thing with that top hole. Now for our bumper support bracket, yours may be a little bit different as far as getting it up into position since we have this aftermarket bumper, but I just wrap it around the front of our hitch here. And it's easier to go to one side to start, at least in our case, because I have all this wiring to go around. And then we can line it up with the brackets on our hitch. And then we'll take a small bolt with a flat washer, take another flat washer, split washer, and a nut. We'll do that with the other 3 holes. Now we can tighten everything down. There is a specific order in the instructions, so we'll start with the side plates to the frame here. And our 2 new bolts are 19, so should the bolt that you used here. Let's get those snugged up, because we will come back and torque everything down. I'm going to do it in the same order that we tightened them now. Now we'll tighten down our bumper support bracket. This is going to be 14 millimeters. Next, we'll tighten down the 4 bolts on each side that connect our side brackets to the receiver cross tube. They're going to be 19 millimeters. And last, we'll tighten down our side support brackets. These lower bolts are 19 millimeters. This top bolt, I'm using an 11/16" socket. And now you want to grab a torque wrench and torque them down in that same order as I said before. These top ones are pretty tricky because you will have to hold the bolt as you torque it. All that's left is to get our exhaust hung back up. Otherwise, that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the TorkLift SuperHitch on our 2018 Chevrolet Silverado 3500.